Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there and welcome. It's a Tuesday. It's Tuesday in May, the 21st to be exact. And it is election day here in Pittsburgh. We're going to choose a new mayor for the first time in a long time. And I sure as heck hope you guys make a point of getting out to the polls. Meanwhile, joining us from Green Bay, Wisconsin, is my sister Susan. Hi, Suze.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. How you doing?
I'm doing okay, thanks.
Yeah. So you got
Feels good to be back here. I haven't been here in a while.
I know, and it's a good time to get out of St. Louis since you've had this nasty weather.
Well, apparently, my husband tells me that he was out dragging a tree limb off a fence and a wrought iron chair in the backyard, and
this is from yesterday.
And then left to go to his office and saw the big, beautiful tree that shaded the front of my neighbor's house just on its side.
Oh, I hate it. I hate it when trees go down.
I do too, but listen, who's
yeah.
complaining?
Yeah.
Neither you nor I are an elementary school child.
Oh God! Do you remember when we used to have those drills too, duck and running?
Yeah, but they were mostly for atom bombs when we were hiding under our desks.
Yeah, that would have been really.
I don't remember tornado drills that did anything differently than that.
I remember one tornado thing where they actually told us to run home.
Yeah, I remember that time, too. I was scared stiff.
Why would they have told us to run home?
Because, well, if you were at Alloway School, there was a basement. I don't know.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean...
But we did. We ran home, and I remember being absolutely terrified watching that yellow mustard sky.
I know. I have that same memory. Run home? What do you mean run home? Anyway, yeah, really horrific. And you know what, guys? This is going to just continue. I mean, we're going to see more and more. We're going to see storms trumping storms. That's what we're going to see. And the thing here is everything was done right in terms of ability to survive this one. Everything.
Well, if it's a direct hit, it's a direct hit.
That's right. You can't, I mean, if you're doing exactly what everybody says you should do, you're safeguarded. They keep kids in schools there because schools are the safest places. They're built to stronger. They're built with basements. Many of the houses don't have them. And they did all the right things. And if a tornado hits you directly, it's just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Came across an interesting piece about extreme weather and how, believe it or not, the United States is the home of extreme weather on the globe.
Yeah.
In the entire world, as we know it, this Earth, the United States has the most variety and intensity of weather. And the reason, I mean, there are reasons for it. There are reasons for it.
Well, one of them is that we go how much land mass we cover, and the fact that we have states like Alaska and states like Hawaii.
Okay, that's true, but so China would have that same kind of a thing, or the Soviet Union, because they're so huge, but they don't have tornadoes. China has at most 10 tornadoes in a year. What they say about us is it's an ocean on the left, it's an ocean on the right,
and you get these massive air masses.
It's an ocean to our south, the Caribbean, and it's that cold air mass that comes down from Canada, the warm, humid masses of air that come up from the south, Caribbean, and the fact that there is no east-west mountain range to, sort of stall those two extremes coming together over the United States. If the Rockies were from east to west, the weather apparently would be a little less crazy. But because there is no barrier whatsoever between the cold Arctic air and the warm southern air that comes up, that's a big, big, big part of it. And let's see. Here's some of the records we have. The most snowfall in a year is a United States record. You would think that might be, I don't know, Siberia, I don't know, someplace in Scandinavia. It's the United States, and that's at Mount Baker, Washington, 95 feet. Although you'll wonder, I mean, there must be a mountain somewhere that maybe had more, but who measures? But anyway, the most rain to fall in 1 hour. That's a record of ours, too, and it's in your state, Susan. These are world records. 12 inches of rain in 1 hour in Holt, Missouri.
Wow. I can believe it. I mean, from the time I went to college there, it was, and I lived through my first spring, I thought, oh my God, they have a real monsoon season here. And then, it became clear that other people thought of it as a monsoon season too. It's amazing. When you talk about a gully washer, we get those.
Yeah. Well, a gully washer, the first time I saw what I think really was a gully,
in Palm Springs?
Was in Palm Springs, California, which is a desert. And when they have a storm, and they have amazing storms, the water cannot be absorbed by that sand. Is that it? And it just goes careening down the mountains and washes through. And so they build these. Don't they build these? What do you call those things, Suze? They're
the drainage
things, but they're
big, dry creeks.
Like a dry creek thing. These just and they become raging rivers. I mean, it's just really amazing when you see it. Well,
I just want to tell you, I have one of those in my backyard. It took me a lot of years to figure out I needed to do that. But when we get those rains, and yes, 12 inches in an hour is unusual, but 3 inches in an hour is not. And when that water comes down, what is usually just this sort of serene-looking, hill and then a valley in my backyard becomes a 5-foot wide, 5-foot deep, raging river.
Well, I think around here we have a lot of that, too, because Pittsburgh is situated in such a way as we do not see a lot of this extreme weather. And we're very lucky. We do not. We get the edges of hurricanes. We get tornadoes, but not that often or that horrible. We get, we just don't quite get all of that. But we do get flash flooding. I mean, anytime you have hills and, water and a lot of water, you can get I guess.
Yeah, every place has its thing.
Yeah, but seriously, the United States, of all the tornadoes on the earth in any year, 80 to 90% of them are all in the United States. So, I mean, a tornado is very American. There's not, I used to wonder about that because you would never read about devastation of tornadoes in Europe or in Asia or in Africa. You never would. And I thought, what, are tornadoes just American? And pretty much that's the case. I saw and was surprised to see that there was a tornado in like Italy or something the other day. And I thought, my God, who ever heard of such a thing? So that is, we are the holder of a ton of records, including the hottest temperature, that's Death Valley. The farthest traveled tornado, 219 miles, crossed 3 states, Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, and largest hailstone. So if you want bragging rights to go with all this extreme weather, there they are, specified. So I don't know. I guess now they're saying the toll might go lower, which is awfully good news.
You mean they're still pulling people?
It could go lower. So... I mean,
as in less people are dead.
They think thought I heard that there'd been a mistake made, and they think people have been counted twice that were gone. I don't know. I mean, they've.
I hope that's true.
Well, they've dropped it. It was 50-something when I went to bed, and it's 20-something now.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, right. It's definitely wonderful. Yowie. Let's see. What else I have? If this extreme weather keeps up, and we have no reason to believe that it won't, because of climate change, and we have been told this is the kind of thing to expect: extreme weather, more intense weather, more deadly weather, more the 100-year flood, the 100-year tornado, the 100-year hurricane, the
airplane flight.
Yes, exactly, all that stuff. And you begin to wonder, is the president going to be expected to show up every time one of these things happens if they're going to become a regular occurrence? Do you assume the president will show up in Moore, Oklahoma? I sort of do. Have they said?
I do too.
Right.
Somebody will.
Well, you expect the president to come, but if in a given year, God forbid, there's a Sandy hurricane, maybe 3 in a week, or 4 in a month, or there's 2 more of these kinds of tornadoes in the next. Can the president continue to just be the designated mourner and comforter in chief for these meteorological devastating occurrences? Because it could be he'll end up doing nothing but that. I'm just wondering. And I know this will be thought of as unseemly by some, but I do want to point out that Oklahoma's 2 senators, that would be Jim Inhofe and Tom Coburn, are 2 of the Republicans in the Senate who have regularly opposed funding for FEMA and have regularly voted against spending relief money on these kind of meteorological occurrences.
Well, we'll see how they vote,
Well, doesn't this
they claim that as long as they can, cut someplace else to make up for what they're funding there, it'll be, they'll vote for it, and that's the only reason they've voted against it.
Well, and in fact, Coburn's spokesman has already come out and said that he wants to make sure that any additional funding for tornado relief in Oklahoma be offset by cuts to federal spending elsewhere. That he'll feel the same way as he has in other situations.
So one will expect that he would vote no, and we'll see how people feel about that in his home state. That's, It'll be interesting.
In 2011, both he and Inhofe opposed a bill that would have granted funding for FEMA when the agency was set to run out of money. So, I mean, if FEMA is there now, and I imagine they're there, they wouldn't have been able to be there if you didn't have funding. I don't know. It'll be Oklahoma, and get this, Oklahoma, and because of it's in Tornado Alley, it currently ranks third in the nation in terms of total federal disaster declarations. So you've got more disaster declarations which allow the feds to come in and help coming out of Oklahoma than in any other but 47 states of the Union. Huh. And despite their voting record on disaster aid for other states, both Coburn and Inhofe appear to sing a different tune when it comes to such funding for Oklahoma. In January of 2007, Coburn urged federal officials to speed disaster relief after the state faced a major ice storm. I don't know. It certainly places those two in an
uncomfortable position. Yeah,
I would think in an extremely uncomfortable position, either to appear to be total hypocrites, or
right. This is being called hoist on your own petard.
But anybody staking out that position would have to have thought that at some point I will be in this
especially
position.
if one is from Oklahoma. Yeah,
I mean, it's an odd. Yeah, I guess they thought it out. I mean,
it's the third time this little town has been hit since '99.
Yeah. Dorothea writes, the state medical examiner's office has revised the death toll to 24 people, including 7 children. So
that means that a lot more of those children were pulled out of the school. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And Dorothy also says, and to those conservatives out there complaining that this tornado is knocking the IRS scandal off the front page, I just want to say, what the hell is wrong with you? Well, I bet Obama ordered that tornado.
I bet you he did, too.
I would think so. His fingerprints are all over it.
Oh, you can't even... You know what Obama did in St. Louis?
What did he do, Suze?
After our CBS News affiliate anchor person interviewed him right before the last election, the anchor, Larry Connors, the anchor man, claims that the IRS started harassing him.
Why
did he wrote this on his Facebook page, but of course the next day he had to come on the air and say, well, actually his problems with the IRS preceded this interview with Mr. Obama by several years, and in fact Mr. Anchorman had somehow forgotten to pay $89,000 worth of self-employment taxes, which by my math says that even with no deductions or other usual things which one might take against it, that's minimally about $280,000 worth of income that he failed to report. Yeah.
Well,
but it's all Mr. Obama's fault.
There was Nate Silver, that really extraordinary reporter for the New York Times, who does all the number crunching and the prognosticating. He just cuts through all the stuff and goes right to the numbers. He had a great piece, I don't know, maybe over the weekend, talking about Republicans who are now trying to suggest that the Obama White House targeted Republicans and conservatives for audits. And he talked about how Peggy Noonan said she knows, she says, I know 3 people who have been audited and blah, 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 never audited before. And he points out how absurd this is. There are over 1 million people audited in the United States every year. They tend to be higher income, people.
And they tend to be on the coast where there's more tax cheaters.
And they tend to be on the coast. And also, if you break down whether they're Republicans or Democrats, it comes out to be exactly what you would expect in terms of the proportion of Republicans and Democrats in the. I mean, pulling here, my cousin, who's the state chairman of the Republican Party, was audited. It doesn't mean anything.
Right. And in the case of our august anchorman, it was exactly what they were supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
He failed to pay taxes, Mr. Patriot.
So
it's just galling. And it's the same thing with, all this big news, that Apple's making because, oh my goodness, they've legally managed not to pay billions in taxes.
Okay, that brings me, Suze, to us. Yeah,
legally, I want to point out.
Yeah, legally. They broke no laws, which is the point, right?
Right.
Our tax law exists so that corporations and the rich can hang on to an extraordinary amount of their profits, and these same laws are written so that you cannot.
And I do believe I was reading an article that not even counting what, Apple has squirreled away offshore, even if they had not taken advantage of all of the loopholes legally available to them in this country, they would still owe $78 billion more than they have paid. $78 billion. Now, what do you think? And we are careful to point out that it's not just Apple.
No,
it's all of them.
All of them.
All of them.
Think of the money.
If our corporations and helping these great big corporations, I'm sorry, not pay taxes does not help small business one little bit.
They're suggesting it helps small business?
Oh, no. Well, if you tax any time that you pass any of these tax laws that the big business lobbies against, they claim that it's going to hurt small business. They don't claim that it's going to hurt them.
Yeah, as if
they use the small businessman who never qualifies for any of the crap that these guys are doing.
Well, I'll tell you who hurts small businessmen. Big businessmen. That's the way the game's set up. They eat them up. They undercut them and eat them up.
Sharks and minnows, sharks and
minnows. So here's the lead sentence in the Wall Street Journal's piece on Apple. Apple Inc. paid little to no corporate income tax to any national government on tens of billions of dollars in overseas income over the past 4 years, a revelation that fuels the debate over whether the U.S. tax code needs an overhaul. Now that is the understatement of the year. But seeing as...
and I'm a proud Apple stock owner, and I like seeing them do well and all of that, and I think they're a good, solid company. But, I think they'd be doing just as well if on a level playing field, all of those big businesses had to pay over some of those profits, to the government.
Exactly. When you think of all the money that if these tax laws were not written to just allow these giants to keep all their gains, would we have a deficit? Would we have the crisis of school funding? Would we have the infrastructure crumbling as we do? Would we have... That is a lot of money.
Right.
If all these Tea Party types don't want to pay taxes, well, then how about them, getting angry about the fact that these behemoths are not paying their fair share?
Right. And how about asking them whether they really, whether to say that you don't want to live in an oligarchy is really being a communist?
They think that if you say anything negative about the corporate political...
The wealth holders.
Yeah, the wealth holders, that you're, first of all... you're into class warfare, and you're a commie, and you want wealth redistribution.
And by all economic measures, that's where we are. We're an oligarchy. We are no longer, a democracy. We are a place that is controlled no one can argue it, by those with the money, whether they be rich individuals or rich corporations.
Absolutely true. And I mean, I've said that for years and years and years. We have dropped into oligarchy status maybe decades ago, and it just keeps getting worse. It just keeps getting worse. And with the Roberts Supreme Court, it's getting solidified, which is
right. And
really
if you
frightening.
think that's a good thing, and people like the Koch brothers are just wonderful guys and entitled to what they do, go to Detroit and look across the river onto Ontario at the slag heaps that they put there.
And that who put there? The Koch
The
brothers.
Koch brothers. This is their new thing. They buy all of the totally unusable refuse from various despicable mining things that which produce, and this stuff is such low-level slag that it's hard to call it fuel, but they sell it to the poorest places in the world to further sully our planet. And in the meanwhile, there's mountains of it piled on the riverbanks in Ontario, waiting to be slugged away, that Detroit gets to look at, and it's causing people in the United States to think long and hard about what they're doing. But this is, brought to you again by those wonderful two guys.
Yes, who now, I guess, want to, buy up the L.A. Times and a bunch of other newspapers, the Chicago Tribune, and continue to exercise their wealth's ability to frame the political debate in this country, to propagandize. This is insane.
But this is what they wanted. This is what they want the freedom to do.
That's right, and
to sully the planet in every possible way they can think of,
and make money. Hello there. Caller.
Hey, Lynn, this is Mike from D.C.
Hi, Mike.
I think what the Republicans have done really successfully is muddy the waters between democracy and capitalism. And a lot of Republicans think when you say anything bad about capitalism, you're saying something bad about democracy.
I think you're right.
Because they trained us all to be consumers, not citizens.
Right. They, it took me a while to finally separate those two things in my own head, and when it occurred to me that capitalism is not a governing philosophy, it is an economic philosophy, and that should not have anything to do with that is separate from our politics. So you can be a good, responsible defender of democracy, but not be a great fan of the kind of capitalism that is practiced in this country.
What we're talking about is unfettered capitalism.
Yeah, capitalism run amok,
and
which is
a totally unregulated free market.
Right.
Which has not ever been contemplated in this country. I mean, or you wouldn't have things like the Commerce Clause and all these things that regulate how we do business and what is right and what is wrong. So
yeah, but if
you were a billionaire, wouldn't you want to confuse those four things?
Yes.
That way you can manipulate and the poor easier.
Right. You would want to conflate them all. There's no doubt about it. And, if Rand Paul has his way, and he's playing his position, I think, very wisely. He was in the paper the other day telling Republicans in New Hampshire to calm it down, that they need to diversify, that they've got to have all kinds of people in the Republican Party. He aims to be a populist, and he aims to, confuse people about what the political targets that he would have, because Rand Paul as a president would go after the Commerce Clause, would go after everything.
Oh no, he's a libertarian.
Total libertarian.
Right.
And there are many things in that libertarian philosophy that appeal to people. There's not a one of us who doesn't like something about the libertarian point of view. And I think if you think his father was
until you have a tornado in your backyard and you need help from the federal government.
That is true. Until then. until then. Oh, my Lord.
Well, thanks.
Thank you. I leave you with a quote. I don't leave you. I have to take a break, and I'm late. How does this guy pronounce his name, the Indian writer Napal?
I don't know.
V.S.? He's supposed to be a real jerk, but he's brilliant. Here's a great thing he said. I pass it on, then I go to a break. The only lies for which we are truly punished are those we tell ourselves. Yeah, you think about that for a little bit, and I'll be back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
It's warming up outside, so get to Little's for all your spring needs. Little's has everything for men, women, and children to stay in style for this upcoming hot summer. Lots of great colors from Dansko, New Balance, Steve Madden, and much, much more. Don't forget to come visit this season's colorful handbag selection as well. Little Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
Okay, you guys, I want you to get your paddles. I want you to report to one of the rivers on Saturday, June 8th in the morning, and I want you to have a great day paddling along Allegheny or the Ohio or the Monongahela, and I want you to be like picking up garbage in the rivers, because we live with some people who just don't get it and who repeatedly foul our common nest. These things have to be cleaned up. And Paddle Without Pollution, which is a wonderful and unique nonprofit in Pittsburgh, is holding its third annual cleanup. You can sign up and be part of it. They take off in kayaks and canoes. They tell you where to go because they've scouted the rivers. They know where the bad places are. And after you get done cleaning up, they give you food, they give you entertainment. And the reality is just last year, over 4,000 pounds of garbage was taken out of our rivers. So get some exercise, get on the rivers on a nice Saturday morning, and do something really good for the community. Check it all out on paddlewithoutpollution.com. You can register right there.
Go to birdbargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week only, 40% off vouchers for Jerome Venice Grill. Supplies are limited. Birdbargains.com. Pittsburgh's best bargains. Birdbargains.com.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
God, I spent that whole time digging around in my purse looking for a Kleenex. And I finally came up with one. Okay. What else we got here? Oh, my gosh. Big election here today, Suze.
Yeah.
Big election. You know, our boy mayor?
Yes.
Well, he's not running for re-election. He's got the feds on his tail. Hello, we got a caller.
To be said for maturity.
Yeah. Hello. Hi, caller.
That was rude.
Yeah. Yourself. Jeez. Susan, this happened
Yes.
in Missouri. I did not read of this before, but I saw it in a magazine the other day. And this has to be the stupidest human being. Well, I don't know. That's a
Well,
that's
go ahead. I'm not surprised. Go on.
What, that it's in
tell
Missouri?
me, is he a legislator?
No. He's a small business owner. He owns a movie theater in Missouri, and it was showing Iron Man 3.
Oh, I heard of that.
Yeah, his name is Bob Wilkins. Guess what Bob thought? Bob thought there's got to be a way to sort of drum up, I don't know, some of the excitement and stuff. This numbskull hires an actor to dress in tactical gear and storm into a screening of Iron Man 3 with a fake rifle. Susan?
Did he? I thought he just had the guy in the lobby.
That's not what this says. It says here that terrified movie-goers calling 911 and screaming and... How? I mean, would a 2-year-old Neanderthal come up with that idea?
This is my Missouri. This is my Missouri, where the legislature introduced, laws this season that made it unconstitutional to even speak of proposing a law that would curtail guns in any way. This is my legislature.
Wait a minute, they couldn't have done that.
I mean, that decided to cut state income taxes and defund all children and elderly programs. I mean, it's just amazing.
Well,
It's like you couldn't make it up what they do.
I know. Well, what's amazing about this is that your state, I'm sure that there should have been good Missourians carrying concealed weaponry there in that theater, and that actor's lucky he wasn't shot.
Yeah. I wonder why he wasn't, because we're a very active concealed carry state.
I know. So why wasn't anybody shooting him?
I have no idea.
That's the way that works. Oh, my God, the numbskulls. Okay. Well, I'm going to move on to a totally... I was telling you about our election. So, yeah, our boy mayor is dropped out, saying he was sick of it. But it happened with, federal agents asking for things and stuff. And he's still the mayor. But so we're going to get a whole new mayor, and that hasn't happened in Pittsburgh, where we've had a truly contested mayoral election. Hasn't happened in 12 years. So
that's fun.
Yeah, well, fun and scary, nail biting. The two guys, there's 4 guys running. 2 have a shot, and the 2 that are running are both, they're capable. But one is somebody who was born to be the mayor, and he has wanted to be the mayor forever, and he's serious, and he has vision, and, he's a little wonkish and everything. But and
I take it this is your guy.
This is my guy, but the entire establishment of this city is in opposition to him. So the corporations, the public employee unions.
Because he wants to change things.
Yeah. He sure do. Both newspapers have endorsed the other guy. And you know what? I got a feeling Pittsburgh, so desperate for change, is going to elect the Maverick. I do. I got my fingers crossed. In 12 hours, I will know. In less than 12 hours. But I'm sure hoping Pittsburgh does the right thing and finally kicks the...
Well, keep me posted, because I won't know when I'm reading it whether...
The winner he has a rather strange name. His name is, the guy I want to win, Peduto. 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 Okay?
Okay.
So, we will hope. Meanwhile, Susan, I don't know if you read this Sunday magazine article in the New York Times.
About the DSM-5?
The DSM-5?
No, so that's not where you're going. Never mind. That's the Bible of psychiatry.
Yeah, you're interested in the Bible of psychiatry.
I'm not really.
Because you sleep with a psychiatrist. But most people don't care about that. Although I see that there's a brouhaha about the revision.
There's a big brouhaha. And the head of the committee that writes it is a Pittsburgh psychiatrist.
And who would that be? Do you remember
Dr. Kupfer.
David Kupfer's the one who wrote it?
He was in charge of the committee, I believe.
Oh, I know David. And is there what's the controversy about?
Well, the controversy is that people are saying that it is just pathologizing life.
Ha! Oh,
so that if under the new guidelines, for example, and the one that's attracting the most attention is the redefinition of grief.
Grief?
Of sadness following loss and grief. If you feel this for more than, I think, a month or something, I'm not sure how long they give you to get over it. You could be classified as seriously depressed, and therefore you should be medicated.
Are you kidding me? So, I mean...
And the previous edition said, up to a year is pretty normal. And don't pathologize these things. But it does it all over the place. If you're a senior and you're suffering a little loss of memory, it's quick to say that, your neurological deficits are pathologic. It happens all over the place. And then when you look up the who constitutes the committee that put this book together, you find that 65% of them receive money from drug companies.
I was just going to say, wait a minute. This sounds like Big Pharma wrote this
manual. So then you start to ask yourself, why does anybody want to use this thing? And, because it just gets me back on my high horse, but, we are so over-medicating everybody, and we are so convincing everybody that feeling something is wrong.
Or can be ameliorated.
Or you shouldn't feel it, but, guess what? I mean, as somebody who I was reading about this today said, feeling grief upon loss
is normal.
Is the price that you pay for the joy of feeling the love.
That's right. And it's normal.
It's human. And you have to have, life has both, guys, and how you deal with it is important and becomes part of who you are.
Oh, this
so
is
you
so
don't
awful.
Want to take a pill every time. I mean, if you're seriously ill, take the pill. If a little pill here and there helps you with your life, that's okay. But, drugging our children, refusing to feel anything, taking a pill so that you do better on your test, and then taking a pill so that you can sleep, taking a pill so that you don't have to discipline your child. It's ridiculous already. And so DSM-5 now is giving everybody all the more. That's what's going on. That's what the brouhaha
Okay,
is.
So this is the Bible of the psychiatric community?
Psychiatric diagnosis.
Okay, and so what they're saying now is that normal reactions to life events are disease.
Are pathological.
Pathological, and can be or need to be treated. But, this is so wrong. I mean, if somebody is in grief and a month or two has passed and they're still in grief, and that is judged to be too long, and then they're put on some pill to make them falsely feel better, then they never deal with the grief.
No, you just postpone the work.
What's insane?
It doesn't go away. You just postpone the work.
Well, I do know that David Kupfer headed, and maybe still does, psychiatry at UPMC. And I know that UPMC is known as being really into the pharmacological way of treating. They're not into the talking cures.
No, it's like Washington University School of Medicine.
Same
thing. They had to be told by the State Board of Health that if they didn't, the licensing people for medical schools, that if they didn't start saying something about psychotherapy, they would not be licensed as a medical school.
Wow. We've got a caller. Hello, caller.
Hello.
Hi. Go
Is
ahead.
Is this the Lynn Cullen show?
Yes, it is.
I would really like to join in on this conversation on grief in the DSM-5.
Go for it.
Is this Lynn?
Yes.
Oh, Lynn, I've listened to you for forever. But never called.
Oh, wonderful. Call.
One time called, but
Okay.
that's beside the point. I am a bereavement counselor, Lynn.
Okay.
I have been working in this area for decades. I have written my own book about grief because the thing I see the most is that we have followed the medical model in too many things that are really a part of the human condition.
That's right.
Grief is a gift that we've been given because loss is so pervasive in our lives. And the way we get through that loss, not over it, not ever over it, the way we get through it is the gift of grief that gives us an opportunity to go inside, to look at what's important in our lives, to think about who we are and who the person is and was to us, where we want to go with that in our future. It is a gift. It is not a sickness to be cured or an issue to be explored. It is the very essence of the human condition in whose wake we learn to live.
Oh, you sound like one heck of a counselor. Susan.
Yeah, I know. She's making me cry.
Okay, you're making my sister cry. You are so... the gift of grief. Wow. And they make it into a disease. Caller?
Yeah, so it's just terrible. I mean, and it has religious leaders in an uproar because they think that's their province, which it isn't necessarily.
Can be.
But
I think that we are a society who wants a quick fix. We don't want to feel our pain.
Right.
We have forgotten that joy and sorrow are two sides of the same coin, and you can't have one without the other. We have forgotten that, and the big drug companies and the whole medical model of thinking about everything that happens to us as a sickness to be cured, we have fallen for that. The whole 5 stages are an absolute myth. They were dead on arrival 4 decades ago when they were introduced. Stages belong to the language of medicine. And when we use the language of medicine to talk about the human condition, then we expect the rest of what goes with that language: diagnosis, treatment, management, stages, cure. We expect that to fall that way. It aggravates moving through the process because people expect that it's like the flu.
Yeah.
You know, you're sick for a couple of days, 2 or 3 more, you're getting a little better, a little better, a little better. And that's what they expect. And we have been indoctrinated in that model. And when we use the language of the medical model, we expect the result of
the medical model.
Cure.
Wow.
So, at any rate.
Well said. Well said. If you've listened for a long time and never called, that was a call worth waiting for. I thank you so much.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Bye. Susan, are you there? No, she somehow got knocked off. I have to take a break anyway. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Did you know that birthday parties help build confidence in kids?
Yeah. Did you know that giving kids less sugar before bedtime helps them sleep better?
Oh, totally. Did you know that friendly kids have more friends?
Everybody knows that.
Hey, guys, did you know that most people think they're using the right car seat for their kid, but they're not?
I didn't know that.
Parents who really know it all know for sure that their child is in the right car seat at the right age and size. Visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat to make sure your child is protected. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Pittsburgh City Paper's annual summer guide is available now. Pick one up today for the most extensive list of summer activities in Western PA and beyond. Plus, the Marshall Tucker Band, Josh Ritter, Styx, Hill House, the St. Nicholas Greek Food Festival, and a look at outdoor dining options in the Berg. Pittsburgh City Paper. Available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania. On the web at pghcitypaper.com and on your smartphone at citypapermobile.com.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
All right, are we back? Susan, what happened to you? Suze? Hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What happened?
Okay.
You just went...
I have no idea what happened. I was in the middle of saying that Judaism gives you 11 months to grieve, and then I got a busy signal.
Huh. Weird. Well, she was a very smart woman, and she sounds like a very, very upset about what medicine is doing to our ability to deal with life events.
Well, and honestly, this whole thing about, take a pill and you're fine. Psychotherapy actually works every single bit as well as medication in a lot of places. And in a lot of other places, a pill gets you to the place where then you better start some psychotherapy so you can understand what your life has been like while you were not functioning appropriately. But to put it all on this on a medical model, she's exactly right of life that there is no such thing as life experience. It's all chemistry. It's just bull.
Of course.
Any more than never take a pill, you should be able to fix everything with by thinking about it. That's bull too. Life isn't that easy or that clean, but if apparently all the way through this book, the grief is the biggest one, but they've done it all the way down the line.
So they've done it to kids, so hyperactivity and that kind of stuff, everything. I mean, it's just, oh, God. So Ansel writes, regarding the caller who called and spoke so eloquently about the gift of grief, please have her as a guest. I could easily listen to that wisdom for an hour.
She was wonderful. I'm not kidding. There were tears coming out of my eyes as she talked.
She may be the person who did, in fact, send me her book. And I thought, well, I don't know. My show doesn't talk about grief. But maybe we should, huh?
Well, it would be. It's an extremely hot topic right now. And there's a good reason to talk about it.
Yeah.
If only because so many of us are experiencing so much grief, either personally or just through the actions of what's happening all over the country over and over and over again.
Yeah. I hear you. Speaking of grief, here's another. When I get my magazine, The Week, which always comes after I've already read everything, so I know everything in it. The one thing I love is their little collection of quotes that they have found in various publications that week, and that's where I got that one about the only lies for which we truly are punished are those which we tell ourselves, which I think was apt in what we were talking about in terms of, our government and stuff. We all have these myths that we carry in our head about this is how things work, when in fact we are often just telling ourselves lies.
Or take a pill, get rid of the symptom, and the problem will disappear.
That's right, and we pay for those kinds of lies later. And that brings us to the fact that we're afraid. We're afraid to face reality. So here's another. This is Santiana. There is wisdom in turning as often as possible from the familiar to the unfamiliar. It keeps the mind nimble, it kills prejudice, and it fosters humor. So in other words, what he's saying is change is good. A change of something with which you're unfamiliar. Head toward that which makes you a little uncomfortable, because that's where the payoffs are.
That's called growth.
That's called growth.
And it's like people that do only crossword puzzles to keep their brain stimulated. You can't do that. You have to teach your brain a new trick every once in a while.
All right. I understood where that was aimed.
I have to say, I was sitting next to a guy on the airplane flying here the other day.
That's Sunday
who was doing
puzzle.
the
Sunday?
Sudokus in the American Airlines magazine, and the grids are so teeny that there's absolutely no place to write numbers, especially in a vibrating, American Airlines airplane. And I'm watching this guy fill these squares in without any of the little memory devices that normal people do. Okay, so he did the easy one that way. Then he does the intermediate one that way. And when he's going on the dastardly one, and I finally I said something to him. I said, "Are you kidding? How can you keep all of that in your head?" And he said, "Well, I can't. See?" And over in one corner he had written 3-9. And I said, "That doesn't count."
Wow. Hey, so did you try the New York Times Sunday crossword puzzle? Was a joke. It was so easy.
I just wrote, any time that I have filled in the top half without hitting a crunch, I get unhappy.
I know. I was unhappy, too. I did it in 2 seconds without even looking. But that's the magazine I'm holding in my hand now that I'd wanted to bring this article up, and we're not going to have all of the time, but the head story in the New York Times Sunday crossword puzzle was germs. And
right.
It
we're right back to our poop medicine.
Yeah. It brings us back to fecal transplants. But this is fascinating stuff. It literally changes. By the way, we got another email from Sue. She wants to know who that caller was. Did she give her name? She spoke beautifully about grief as a gift. No, she didn't, but I will ask her if she's still listening to get in touch with me, email. And if she is who I think she may be, maybe she'll come on and we can do more of that and pick her wise brain a little bit more. But what this article tells you is, again, we think we're so damn smart. And here we are. We think we're the idea of what God's creation of us. And this article makes you think that God maybe created us, but we are simply the housing for the millions of microbes who live inside of us. And that might be taking it a little further than intended, but if you read the whole thing...
No, but we live in symbiosis.
Well, but here's where they really figured that, oh my, wait a minute. What they could never figure out is there's something in mother's milk. There is something in breast milk that babies can't handle. Now, why would that be? I can't pronounce it. It's a certain complex carbohydrate called an oligosaccharide. And a human infant does not have the enzymes to break it down. It is, and any evolutionary scientist would say, well, what the hell is it doing there? Because this, through natural selection, mother's milk should have discarded anything that would not help mother's child. And here's what it turns out: this thing that the baby can't digest is needed to nourish a microbe in the baby's intestine.
Right. The gut needs it.
The gut has to have it. The little being that lives in the intestine needs that enzyme in order to do what it ultimately has to do. So here's this great quote from a scientist at the University of California. Mother's milk, being the only mammalian, the only mammal food shaped by natural selection, should be looked at as a Rosetta Stone for all food. And what mother's milk is telling us is that when natural selection creates a food, it is concerned not just with feeding the child, the human, but also feeding the child's gut bugs as well. So a human is not in good shape if they don't have the right colonies of the right kinds of bugs in our guts.
You're right. Our mother was reading that article yesterday and kept exclaiming, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Oh, because she didn't breastfeed us.
And then she looks at me and she said, "Well, at least I didn't have a cesarean."
That's right. And I was thinking the same thing, because they say mothers release all kinds of these bugs to their children through breast milk. But if you're like Susan and me and were bottle fed and didn't get any of that.
Well, there was a whole generation where the doctor said you shouldn't do that because breasts were for the husbands.
Yeah, or whatever they were thinking. Anyway, through vaginal birth, the mother is able to get all these microbes to the kid. So we got them that way. But if you're a C-section birth and we're not breastfed, then your gut bugs are probably not as diverse as they should be. And they're talking about the Western microbiome, the Western gut, because of the food we eat, because of the pesticides, because of all the crap we do to our food, all of this stuff. Our guts are not in good shape. And we eat a diet that's detrimental to our own well-being. And they're talking about now, if you want to get ecological, we should do restoration ecology on, well, keep it up in the rainforest, keep it up in all these other places we do, but we should do it in the human gut, because our guts are screwed up by virtue of being Western. Take a gut from somebody living closer to the land, someplace else, they got good guts. We got crap guts, guys. Mm-hmm. We really do. And that's where that fecal transplant, which we had so much fun with before, if somebody has a real lot of trouble with some intestinal issues, if you simply put the feces of another person with a good colony of gut bugs, if you put it into the person who's having the problem, often that is cured almost immediately. You recolonize their gut. And these fecal transplants have been shown to effectively treat an intestinal pathogen named C. difficile, which kills 14,000 Americans every year, and it is, through fecal transplants, getting wiped out. So I guess what they're thinking now is that we would do well to stop thinking of ourselves as God's big creation and start regarding our bodies as an elaborate vessel optimized for the growth of our microbial inhabitants.
Everybody needs everybody.
That's right. And what do? We take antibiotics till the cows come home. We wipe these guys out all the time. We wipe the good guys out. And the use of antibiotics has done a lot in destroying the Western.
Well, it's the cheap reason that I can think of to go organic. I mean, our children are not going to have the use of antibiotics because there are only going to be resistant, strains that are resistant to antibiotics because of the overuse in all of our foodstuffs.
Right. So the author of this said she began asking all these scientists what they have learned in their own personal lives, because it's just starting, this kind of research, and have they changed their diets and lifestyles. And they said, well, in little ways, because we're not sure yet. These scientists now are much slower to take antibiotics or to give their children any. Some said they don't keep their homes as clean as they used to. They do not use hand sanitizers. If something falls on the floor and the kid eats it, fantastic. If they pet their dog, they don't necessarily wash their hands before they're making food, because all of those this is how the gut gets. We make ourselves so clean that we're screwing ourselves up. Also,
you've got to give your body you have to teach your body what's good or bad, and if you don't introduce, it's the same thing as not letting your children experience anything unhappy in life. There have to be stresses in order to strengthen anything.
Indeed. And another biggie, you cut back on as much processed foods as you can.
You eat as organically as you can, and that means very easily throw a garden in your backyard, or make a vertical garden, or if you live in an apartment, or do whatever you want. But there are all sorts of ways to grow your own stuff, and how nice just to go out and pick a couple of leaves off your lettuce for your
salad
dinner.
Right. So here, I'll leave you just with this because we've gone over. The big problem with the Western diet is that it doesn't feed the gut. It only feeds the upper GI tract. All the food has already been processed that we have eaten, and it is readily absorbed. But it turns out that one of the keys to health is that food should not be so readily absorbed. It needs to ferment in the large intestine and feed those colonies of bugs. The less a food is processed, the more of it that gets safely through the GI tract and into the eager clutches of all of those microbiomes that call us home. So, the less a food has been cooked, raw vegetables better than cooked vegetables. Al dente pasta feeds the bugs better than, overly cooked pasta, and on and on. But they do say we're just getting into this, and they say it is, gene sequencing is one thing, but this is another, and they're calling it the second genome, because it is possible that the second genome, knowing what's in our gut and all of that life in our gut, is possibly even a greater shaper of our health than even genetics, than the first genome. Because the thing about the second genome, the bugs, we can toy with that a little bit. The genes, it's harder to toy with. The second genome, you can toy with. So stop thinking of yourself like, the finished product. I got news for you. We're all just walking around. I forgot how many pounds of us are, in fact, microbes.
Right. And remember that those 2 lumps on the front of the girl's body are not to fill out a sweater as much as they are to feed their child. They're there for a reason.
They are really there for a reason. Okay. Hey, Suze, thanks. A lot of interesting stuff today. I appreciate it very much.
Okay, bye. I'm late.
Oops. Bye. Okay, I'm late too. Bye. Potter tomorrow. Vote today. We'll talk about the results tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.